Spawning in the lower right-hand corner of Gresvan, it is none other than our Team Liquid Terran in the red, Clem. Some may not consider him the #1 Terran in Europe anymore, but I would certainly say he's the #1 TVZ player in Europe. His opponent in the upper left-hand corner, unfortunately for him, is a Zerg. For the Shopify Rebellion, it is a Lambo, who's going to have to be as speedy as his namesake to keep up with Clem. Clem is so fast. I feel like I was just talking about this in the last match when we had Spirit versus Max Bags. But yeah, I feel like one of the reasons Clem does find such success is his speed. It can get him into trouble sometimes too. You have to be very confident in what you're doing when you're moving that fast, that all of your actions are correct. Because you don't really give yourself time to think and make a decision based on, what you think might be good or what you think might work. It has to be, a lot of it's just intuition and just trusting that gut instinct. It's a hard thing to do, and it can definitely get some of those faster players into trouble. And when I talk about a fast player, I don't necessarily mean somebody who has like high APM. That is obviously a big part of it, and Clem's APM is super huge. But a lot of players with high APM aren't necessarily as fast. And you can have lower APM and still be very fast. Back in the old school days, DeMuslim was actually known for being a very fast player. And a lot of that comes down to just like constantly, I guess you're not really dawdling ever, right? It feels like there's always something going on. You always have something out on the map. You're always trying to find a way in, to find a weakness of your opponent. And some players just play like that. They're constantly moving. It doesn't feel like they have a moment where they're just macroing, where they're just focused on building their own stuff. And we see Clem already with the Reaper Micro, repositioning it every single split second he gets a chance to. Raynor is a very similar kind of player. There are a lot of players that just... not a lot of players. There are actually, I would say, very few players who really move like that, where they just keep that pressure on constantly. I think Beyond often works like that as well. It can make them really entertaining to watch and really difficult to play against for somebody like Lambo. I think Lambo's strengths lie a lot of times in his very smart build orders, smart plays. He is a very fast player, but keeping up with Clem is just, it can feel impossible to a lot of players. I think it's why Clem and Raynor often go back and forth. It's also why Clem's TVT, though, maybe isn't his strongest matchup. TVT really isn't about speed as much as the other matchups can be, especially this matchup. It's such a fast-paced matchup. Clem's heading towards Banshee. It's just going to be a good Hellion Banshee opener. I think that's a very solid move here. Lambo, like I said, certainly has some builds. He's got the builds. And some of those builds do involve roaches pushing across the map. He's got some dark-style roach pushes that I feel like Lambo can pull out at pretty much any point if he wants to. Banshee openers are going to be very good at defending against those early roaches. So they're a great support unit for the Hellions, which don't deal with roaches that well. But it looks like a nice bio follow-up here for Clem. He's already got the third CC finished up. Kind of as you'd expect, Clem is very comfortable in the longer macro games. Not necessarily super late game. I don't actually really know how good Clem's super late game is. I feel like I rarely see him go there. So probably not the most comfortable in those really long late game scenarios, which I imagine is why Lambo is cool with this map, because I feel like this map has given us some long late game TVZs. Although there are a few other maps that I think are a little bit better for it. But I think against Clem, that's not as much what you're worried about. This is a super long late game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't see it because the Zerg players try to end it sooner. But it's a very different style of play than what Clem, I think, excels at. It's a little bit more like TVT in a way. Ooh, but Lambo going for a Spire here. What is that Spire? Oh, there it is. You know, if you click it, it'll like take you to the building. But if you click something and it goes nowhere, that means it's either on screen or just off screen. So then you gotta look for it. Now the Banshee's coming in. They get a few drones, but one of the Banshees gets very low. Looks like the Queen either died or isn't here to play and kind of ran away. Queen's got to come help out. So far, good defense from Lambo. He really hasn't taken much damage at all. Oh, and he even gets one of the Banshees. Lambo's got to be happy with this. Ling's going to take a little bit of damage here, but these Hellions need to be a little careful. Oh, great movement from Clem. Turning around as soon as those Lings were about to come back in and focus firing the Lings. He gets a couple of drones, but really trading with the Lings there, I think ended up doing some good work for him. He kills 15 Lings, only loses a couple of Hellions. I mean, it's so even. Like, I want to say, oh, Clem's traded better, but it's like, it's such a small amount, really. But Lambo, he's got the Mutas on the way. The Spire is done. Ah, this is a hard time for Mutas to be coming out because Clem is pushing onto creep. He's gonna kill this Overlord. Should be scanning, clearing some of the creep. There are Banelings morphing. But the Mutas are out now, and these Mutas actually might be able to help him clean this up. Bane speed is done. Oh, Lambo is very well set up for this, I think. Is there just one siege tank? It's just the one siege tank. It sets up. Looks like the Mutas decided to go across the map instead of trying to help hold back at home. It is going to make it a little harder for Lambo to actually hold this. But Tank is firing on the Queens right now. Ooh, Transfuse is going to go down. Keep a couple of those Queens alive. Muta's killing 5 SCVs already before they get pushed out by some of those reinforcement Marines. Lambo's, he's really got to get on top of this, but Clem, the creep is clearing up here, so those Banelings going to be a lot slower. A few more SCVs going down. So far, I'm not taking too much damage back at home. Oh, and the Hellbat's going to make it even more difficult. I'd love to see Lambo come in for a flank, but right now he's just going to push through the middle. Muta's going to try to help take down that siege tank. Oh, there is a second siege tank. Okay. I thought there was one. I just didn't see it. More Marines show up to help push these Lings, Banes, and Mutas backwards. Wouldn't mind staying alive somehow. There's another Widow Mine here as well for Clem, so Lambo's got to be very careful about these two mines. It looks like they're just going to go up on some Queens. They kill one Queen. Not the biggest deal in the world there. So many Marines, and there's more mines behind this. Lambo still has to be so careful. Nice splits here, but Clem retargeting, trying to get a better shot, and falling back to yet another Widow Mine. Finally, some of this cleared up. The Muta count's getting pretty high again. 16, actually. Oh, and these Marines need to be a little bit careful, but are there enough Lings and Banes to help support? And after that Widow Mine shot, there aren't, and Clem's going to push back in. More Banelings being morphed, but there's no Banes left right now. And Clem has so many Marines here. None of this is really going to deal with the Marines very well. And this third base is in a lot of trouble for Lambo. He does have a fourth and a fifth, but he's got to defend this. Widow Mine gets a beautiful connection. Oh my god, these Mutas are so low. But there are still kind of a lot of them, honestly. Widow Mine doesn't hit anymore. Oh no! And GG gets called as the last of those Mutas go down. Lambo with a good pushback there initially, but taking so much damage on those Mutas, and Clem just had so much to follow it up. Part of being as fast as he is that he always has more behind it. He's always got those reinforcements, and it's so tough. Lambo really struggling there in game one. Muta's not finding enough damage in their counterattack. I wonder if the Mutas would have done better staying back at home and helping to defend that first push. Like, there was I guess there were 2 siege tanks. One was already sieged up on the high ground, and the second one was on the low ground. Like, if those mutas had popped in, killed that first tank, suddenly Clem's got to worry about that. There's only a handful of Marines. I feel like if those mutas had helped clean that up, Lambo's in a much better position. The follow-ups aren't nearly as powerful. The way Clem tends to play, sorry, memeing in chat. The way Clem tends to play is very momentum-based. And I think a lot of that is true just in TVZ in general. It's very momentum-based. But he likes to, once he starts that pressure, just keep the pressure on. Generally, I think as the Terran, but really whoever is playing the lower economy game, it's just usually the Terran, wants to be putting pressure on and not stopping the pressure. Keeping it going, forcing the Zerg to build units, forcing them to respread creep, forcing their attention on the defense constantly. Because you're more likely to find a way in. And if you're fast enough and good enough, you won't take big baneling hits. You'll always get out of there with most of your Marines, and you'll just take better and better trades as the game goes on. It's a very tough thing to defend against. And in the last game, unfortunately, the Zerg player was not able to do it for the Shopify Rebellion. Down 0-1. It's Lambo. His opponent in the upper left-hand corner made it a tough one. Team Liquid, it's Clem. But it really is just that it's the opening pressure into the follow-up pressure, and we see this very clearly in Clem's play. And a lot of it, too, can come down to that creep spread. I feel like we don't talk about it a ton. There have been some very clear times, though, where I've noticed how dealing with the creep spread or not dealing with the creep spread can make the game so much easier or harder for Zerg. Specifically, I remember probably a couple of years ago at this point, there was a match. Raynor went up against Hero Marine. It was one of the Open Cups. And then immediately after, Raynor went up against Clem, and it was the most clear I've ever seen it because it was the same map back to back. Hero Marine wasn't able to clear up the creep, the initial few creep tumors from the third. And he put on, it was almost the exact same builds, but he wasn't able to clear up that initial creep from his first little pressure, right? He was more focused on dealing with the lings or trying to get drones or queens or whatever. Clem immediately killed the creep, and his first attack didn't really do much because he was just killing creep. But then the follow-ups were so much stronger because Raynor had so much less time to make sure his units were in the right position, to make sure he was constantly ready to defend Clem's pushes. It really showed how strong that creep is. Because, yeah, lings are fast, and queens are often in a good position, but maneuvering back and forth with queens is so important. And as fast as lings are, they're not instant. So the more time you have to get those units into position, to get them ready to defend, the more likely you are to not take any damage as the Zerg. And if you consistently take no damage as the Zerg player, you will get ahead. Just your economy is just going to be better, assuming equal macro skills between the players. And I know Lambo's macro is very strong, but none of that's going to be relevant this game. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about last game with the Banshee opener and why we might see Banshees out of Clem. It's to deal with these bad boys. Roaches. We have 8 roaches on the way here. And this time there are no Banshees. So this is a Hellion opener into a second barracks with a third CC. And this is, I think this is actually very good for Lambo. Last game there was a Banshee started already. And that just kills this. I'm actually surprised to see Lambo going for this since it was Banshee's last game. Clem's going to spot this, and he's got to pull back immediately. I feel like a bunker here might be kind of crucial. Starting up a Marauder and concussive shells. Oh, he's going for a bunker on the high ground. He's going to give up the low ground when the roaches get here, it looks like. at least for the time being. He's got a third CC, so he knows he can catch back up economically very quickly. We see Lambo already going back into building drones. He is down a few workers, so he's got to get those workers out. Ooh, Widow Mine. Yeah, nice shot from the Widow Mine there. There's only one Ravager for the time being. Second one morphing. Looks like the first supply depot going to go down. Clem, not quite supply blocked, but pretty close to it. Catches another roach. The concussive shell is really nice here. And the biles to keep these units back is very important. Clem, though, feeling like he might have enough to actually push out. Nice little Reaper grenade. Another Marauder pops down from the high ground. And Lambo's going to back up. Did lose a few roaches, but what was it? 4 roaches. Yeah, I mean, the trades are actually dead even. But Lambo, in the meantime, has built like 20 drones. So he's in a decent spot economically. His third base is up and running. He is very late on any tech, though. Of course, the Evo chambers will be late. It looks like it's just going to be the one for now. A lair. This is a late lair now. Because he focused so hard on building those roaches early on. I'm trying to get another creep to him. Doesn't quite grab it. And then we're going to start spreading that creep. Still droning, but building some lings now as well. Ling speed is on the way, but it's not quite here yet. So that gives Clem a little bit more freedom to move around and see what's going on. But it looks like Clem might just go for a big push here with Stim. He's got the 2 racks. Probably like to see him salvage this bunker. Nope. Well, down goes the Reaper. We have a Widow Mine drop on the bottom side. It's going to get spotted by this Overlord. But we'll see if Lambo is ready for it to be Widow Mines dropping out. Queens are coming up to push this away. Yeah, okay. Doesn't even try to drop it in there. Clem just going to take his third base. Chilling for now. He's got 1-1 started up in combat shields. We might wait for that to finish. He did salvage that bunker. He's got a third Rax. All right, we're macroing. Bane Nest on the way. Banes are going to be a crucial part of this. For now, Ling Roach Ravager is pretty solid against this early game bio. But with no upgrades, it's a little bit painful. 1-1 is started up here for Lambo. Oh, but he's going to try to get a nice surround. Goes for the biles. Actually hits the medevac. Looking a little dicey here for Lambo. Nice Ravager morph there. Doesn't hit the medevac again, but Ling reinforcements are showing up now. Clem's going to have to pick up and pull away. Lambo, in the meantime, has his 4th base up. Clembo's ahead in workers. Man, it's pretty good. Pretty good, this Clem guy. Bane speed on the way. Lings try to sneak in and a run by, but Clem is there. Looks like Clem brought the rest of his units home. Did he? Oh, yeah. Okay, I was like, where's that hurt medevac? It's right here with 8 hit points. +1 finishing up for Lambo. He's getting into his +2 carapace. Maybe that +2 melee rather. Finds the drop to the top side. Gonna force the lift up here. The nice surround. Oh, here come the Banelings, but there is a wall. It's not really much of a wall though, Clem. Oh, baby, and 9 SCVs go down, very close to it being about 15 SCVs here, as a lot more of those are weakened. The Banelings not quite strong enough to pop those SCVs in one shot. This game going much better for Lambo. And I feel like a lot of that does come down to Clem not being able to get any of that momentum going, right? Lambo took the tempo advantage with that Roach play. And then by the time Clem was ready to put some counter pressure on, Lambo handled it very nicely, traded some Lings out. I think he's more than happy with that situation. Now though, Clem, he's pull back. He's macroed up. He's got a nice army going. And he's going to start putting that multi-prong on. He's got the drop down to the bottom side. I see some army units moving on the top side. So as he pulls this army out of position, Lambo's going to need to split appropriately. But Lambo has all of that creep spread, and that's kind of what I was talking about. Gives him such advanced warning of where this army is that he's already there. And even as this drop goes into the main base, Lambo is in position. Clem doesn't want to drop over this Spore Crawler. Even though he could get damage done, it's more important to him to keep these units alive than it is to, like, try to get that drone damage done or something. Clem's economy is very good. He doesn't need to get huge economic damage. He wants to take good army fights, I think, more than anything else here. This case, though, that's going to be some nice economic damage. He's going to lose a medevac, but he picks up into the one not being hit by the Spore, because damn, he's good. But this third base is feeling very exposed right now. Oh, man. I feel like those Lings of Banes could have done something, but at the same time, this fifth base of Lambo is getting hit by the bio. Gonna have to pull back to force that to pick up. Supplies are so insanely close right now. Clem clearing some creep through the middle of the map. Gonna trade with a few of these Lings that are spilling in as well. Lambo's got to be a little bit careful with that. It looks like he's gonna try to put those creep tumors back down. Clem not paying attention for a second, and that is the danger of hitting with so many different groups at once. With having all of these units out on the map, it's one or two big Baneling shots. Loses a lot of Marines there, and a lot of presence in the center of the map. That's going to allow these queens to potentially put some more creep tumors down. You know, I say, even though the creep is all dissipated now. It's a bit unfortunate there for Lambo. And now these units on the top and bottom side, these clumps of army have gotten a lot bigger. Lambo's got to make sure to split appropriately. It looks like that one's going to be a good split. The Bile's missing those medevacs. This side, though, seems to be going very well for Lambo as he shoves it completely away. This is heading towards the main base. There's nothing here to stop it. The Lings are showing up. Units are going to drop down anyways, knowing they can trade with these Lings. But that's going to buy time for the rest of Lambo's units to get here. I think Clem's probably just going to lift up and then move back down to the low ground. Ooh, the Bile's trying to stop this from happening. Oh, man. Clem was really thinking about dropping on top of that, but decided not to. Banelings exploding on nothing. This game is just so hectic. Those Banelings didn't know what to do. Looks like that's not enough Ling Bane to win this fight just yet. He's going to go ahead and pull back. Lambo, though, looks like he wants to put pressure on the bottom side. He's moving off of this creep a little bit. Clem has pushed the creep back on the bottom side and in the center very, very nicely. The top side's still looking pretty good for Lambo, though. Oh, those Biles were beautiful. Some Baneling connections as well. Looks like Clem was looking elsewhere. Lambo takes a nice little fight there. Takes a supply lead for a half a second before Clem remaxes out. This fifth base for Clem seems to be up and running. Lambo, he's got quite a few bases. Both players on about the same worker count here. Generally, the Zerg wants to be on a slightly higher worker count, but it looks like Lambo seems to be happy working with a bit lower as he dives in here. Nice blinding clouds on the siege tanks. None of them can fire right now. Banelings are trying to get into the worker line. Getting a few kills, 10 kills here. Ooh, Banelings on the top side as well, hitting pretty hard as those units were coming down from the top side of the map, but Clem holds on. He pushes this back. He loses 10 workers, and he loses this command center. All of his tanks going down as well. Some really nice kills there from Lambo. But Lambo loses a lot of his army, and as we see, the supplies are almost completely reset for both players. They're going to have to just build that army back up. Lambo, though, is replacing some of those weaker, smaller units with at least one Ultra. Chitinous is on the way, and +3 Carapace about to finish up. So those will be pretty powerful Ultras in a minute or so. But it seems to just be the one for the time being. And actually, there's a lot of Marauders in this composition, so it does worry me for these Ultras a little bit. I'd also love to see Adrenal. And no Adrenal. There it is. Okay. It starts up. Right as I'm talking about Adrenal, Lambo starts it up. He probably had the same thought when he saw those Lings taking the fight. Like, oh, these are non-Adrenal Lings. They need that. I see some of the creep spread getting replaced here, but Lambo definitely needs to work on that a little bit. It looks like he's moving it through the center of the map. He's got some fresh tumors, at least in this area, as he's trying to take, I think this is a 7th base. Yeah, 7. Now, Clem's going to have a tough time taking a 6th one. Six bases are a little bit tough on this map, I think. But he's pretty happy on 5 right now. Some snipes going down, catches a couple of Ravagers resting on their laurels. There are so many medevacs in the sky for Clem. I actually worry it's too many. Although as Lambo just dives in here, eating Widowmine and tank shots, not dealing with his Liberator at all. Some Parasitic bombs going down, but great splits here by Clem. And it looks like the Baneling's not going to get huge damage on the army, but going to get some big damage on the economy. Killing 8 workers. At the same time, though, Clem's moving in on the bottom side. He's killing a 7th base and a 6th base, and Lambo is forced to tap out as he just commits so hard to that attack. And Clem defends the attack pretty well, but deals so much damage on the bottom side. Lambo didn't have enough to deal with that army. And he's forced to tap out. GG. Clem takes the 2-0 victory. And we'll move on to the grand finals, where he once again has to face Max Pax.